great job.
How was practice today?
I think it was a good spirited practice. I like that everybody came out with their energy.
What's the atmosphere been like around the team as you guys have gone through a rough patch here?
Well, like you said, it's a rough patch, but you know, it's part of the game. Just have to move on, next play, next game mentality.
How does a season like this test the culture that you guys talk about quite a bit?
Well, culture is a foundation, so whatever your foundation is, that's what you'll rely back on in hard times. So definitely is a test of culture.
How do you train your mind, though, to be able to deal with something on such a level where you know you're being criticized, you know you're being critiqued by people obviously that don't know what's going on, but how do you go ahead and train your mind to deal with what you guys are going through right now?
I just think it comes down to like belief in the system. Like how much do you really trust in the culture that you say that we preach every day? Are you really bought into it? Because if you're not bought in all the way, you know, if you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you know, when times get hard like right now, you know, that's when teams separate. But I think this team's going to do a good job of, you know, relying on this culture and just, you know, staying together as a unit.
How do you not question, though, that faith, that belief, when it was kind of like, man, if you guys could just picked up that fourth down, you know, then the defense isn't put in such a bad position, or vice versa. How do you go ahead and just keep on with that faith when it was just like, okay, this shit ain't working right now?
Well, I would say just to look in the mirror, because at the end of the day, you know, nobody was perfect. So I feel like the best way that I approach it is I just look at what could Elliott, what could I have done better? You know, could I have communicated better? Could I have alerted somebody better? You know, I think that's the main thing. You know, people just have to look at themselves. You know, am I doing my job? It's as simple as that.
Sometimes one can springboard, you know, to some good things, especially this time of the year as November sneaking up. Can this weekend be that one that propels you guys to a really strong finish?
Oh, for sure. But just like Tripp had said here previously, I heard him. We just got to take it one game at a time. You know, we're not looking too far. I think this team needs to focus, like I said, focus on our job, focus on this certain play or this certain drive, and then, you know, go on to the next one. You know, not looking too far ahead.
Elliott, how have the injuries in the defensive backfield, like how big of an impact was that this past week?
Well, you know, injuries, you know, you can't see them into the future, you know. So yeah, it was big. You know, Ken had went down, but it's just the next man up, and that's just kind of how this program is built. You're just trying to make sure everybody's equipped with the right tools. So if your name is called, then you're ready to go.
How does Ken going down affect you? Do you have to slide over to the other side, or like what's the plan, I guess?
Well, it's just me knowing both, but we also have some more safeties, Jamarius, Ronald Link, Elijah. You know, we got other safeties that are stepping up and stepping into those roles, and I just think it just comes down to everybody having their communication on point, especially between the safeties.
On those injuries, we all asked Coach about this. The last 2 or 3 years, it just seems like this team is really snake bitten when it comes to injuries. Do you guys even feel that, like during the game, after the game, it was just like, dude, really? We lost 2 or 3 more? How many more of these guys are we going to lose? It's like, do you start to think about what are we doing from a strength and conditioning standpoint? Do you change anything? How do you deal with the fact that it was like, you guys obviously know that there's a big problem too?
Well, I heard Coach Trevor say previously that would be something that, you know, they definitely have to, you know, look into and research on, you know, see how, you know, we can make improvements there. I just think as far as from players' perspective, you know, the players have to continue to do everything in their power, you know, to be ready, you know, taking those preventative steps, you know, to prevent injuries, you know, before they happen. So I just think with the combination of, you know, the coaches fixing, you know, the internal problems and the players just taking the initiative, I think we can get it handled.
Elliott, are you at a point where you're ready to take on a lot of the communication that Ken usually happens? How does that fall to you when he's not out there?
Well, we both communicate, so even though, you know, you may think that Ken does communication, he communicates in the field, you know, I have to always communicate to the boundary. So communication has always been a big thing that, yeah, I've been doing that every week. Yes, sir.
Does it change the role of a safety when a lot of your top cornerbacks are banged up? Do you have to approach plays differently to cover for the guys a little bit more?
I would just say knowing your personnel, like knowing who's out there, making sure your communication is clear and everybody's on the same page.
Tell us about the Memphis offense. What are some of the things you got to watch out for this week?
Oh, they're a good team, well-coached team. They got some good receivers, a good back, quarterback who's experienced. So, I think we have to be on our P's and Q's this week for sure and play hard.
How does because that's an 11 o'clock start, how does the night before and that morning, how does that completely change around? I know you've dealt with that before, but obviously that's got to be a complete different type of thinking.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
what do
sir.
you do differently on, like, say, Friday night?
Definitely getting a good night's rest, getting into bed early, and then waking up, just making sure we eating and getting that breakfast in our stomach. Because about halfway through the game, you're gonna feel it if you didn't eat in the morning. So, and then just getting your mind mentally prepared to get going early. And we practice early in the morning, so I think we'll be all right.
Elliott, how do you guys go about addressing some of the big passing plays that the defense is giving up this season? What has to happen to patch that up?
Just continue to make sure everybody knows their job, communication. If there's any questions, make sure the questions are answered, before it happens, and not after. So.
Is there anything you can do in practice that targets those type of situations specifically, or how do you guys work on that?
Our coaches they put us in some tough situations so that we can be prepared, when the game time comes, to be able to get that communication going.
The other thing Coach Traylor talked about is some of the emotional penalties from the defense. How much of an impact has that been for you guys this season?
Well, penalties are hurt whether you're on the offense side, defense side, special teams. So penalties is something that we need to eliminate moving forward if we want to be successful.
How do you guys target that? Like, what does it look like week to week, trying to iron that out? What's the process?
I would say definitely in practice, just making sure there's no little small penalties, no matter how small they may seem in practice. In the game, it's way emphasized. The camera's on you, the refs are looking at you. So just making sure in practice that you take care of business in practice.
Thanks, Elliott. Appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all.